Welcome, race fans. Now that the 2024 NASCAR season is behind us, I thought it would be fun to go through some ideas or changes to the playoff system that NASCAR currently has. Ultimately, I just want to put on the screen, go back to a full season, but they're not going to do it. I think everyone knows they're not going to do that. That's never going to happen. I don't think the TV media rights deal will say, let's go back to it. I don't think NASCAR would ever go back to it. So instead, I'm just going to kind of quickly go through some issues I have with the current format, what some possible fixes, and kind of the overall idea of what I would do, or try to give them some ideas of what they should do to fix the overall product that they want to promote every Sunday. Starting with, and I know I've just said we can't get rid of it, but get rid of the Xfinity and Truck playoffs. They don't need them. TV doesn't cover them the same way. They don't hype it up the same way. They don't have the same amount of races. Just get rid of it. That's my fix. It's just get rid of it. They don't need it. Xfinity's had a black eye years ago where they've had a champion have one career win, and it was the finale. And the Truck Series had that Demolition Derby in 2023, and it was kind of embarrassing. These are young, up-and-comer drivers. They don't need that extra pressure. So just for Xfinity and trucks, get rid of it. Go back to the full season. Let these guys make a name for themselves. We don't need playoffs for them. If they want the Cup Series to have playoffs and have that gimmick be the Cup Series, yeah, fine, okay, whatever. But at the end of the day, just the lower series, don't do it. Now, with that being said, they're probably like announce tomorrow that ARCA has playoffs because that's just NASCAR for you. Issue number two, and it's a hypothetical, but it could happen. Is technically you could win all 35 races leading up to the finale and still lose the championship. Just no. It won't happen in NASCAR, but if you looked at it as like a Formula One, where a team goes out and wins or dominates almost every race, it would be really bad if you had a Red Bull style team right now, or a McLaren, and you go out and win 99.9% of the race, or of the season, and you get to the final race, and you finish second, and they're like, no, you didn't win the finale. You're not the champion. Just with that, with the lock in, and you get it, and it's the one race win finale. Just change that whole idea, that whole format, and the fix to that is just make the wins mean more. And I mean that in just your regular season. Make them mean more in the playoffs. Award more points. Which I guess, spoiler alert, I'm going to go into number three right now because they're kind of the same thing, but slightly different reason. It's just get rid of the win and in, or the win and lock in, or however they want to look at it. If you win a race in February, you're locked into September. If you win a race in a round of 12 or a round of 16, you're locked into the next round. Get rid of that. Get rid of this golden ticket Willy Wonka crap. And just, again, what's fixed to that is make wins mean more, give more points for wins. Instead of having just 5 bonus points or you get slightly more points, make it so it's, if you get 40 points for second place, make it like 80 points for a win or 70 points for a win. Just give them enough points where it really stands out that when you win a race, you've earned those points. That gets rid of the mediocre, average, you finished third every week and you've got more points than a guy that has 4 wins because you've finished better every race. Just make the wins mean more. Get rid of this lock-in crap, and then we'll have a better understanding of who the best of the best are versus the guy that gets 1 win in February or March and they've got like 2 playoff points to their name. They're technically in the playoffs. that part is an issue and they need to fix it. Along those lines, the discrepancy between what is a playoff driver versus a non-playoff driver. You have 26 races in your regular season. You hand out playoff points. And then at that cutoff, you decide, okay, top 16, we're going to reset your points, but we're still going to award you finishing positions based on everybody else. So they're still getting non-playoff points when they should really be different between what is a playoff driver, what is a non-playoff driver. Playoff drivers have their own point system. Regardless of where they finish, it's the highest finishing playoff driver down to the 16th playoff driver. If they finish first and 16th, all 16 are in the top 16. Simple, easy. They get those points. But that's rarely going to happen. So if you have your highest playoff driver finish first, and then your second highest playoff driver finish 15th, don't give them 15th place points. Give them second highest playoff points. It keeps those guys way closer. It makes those battles really exciting that television really wants. They want those storylines. But there's never been a breakdown between the two. They've always separated the playoff drivers, but they've never put them in their own point system. So I guess my fix to that, or an idea to fix it, is just make it a separate point system. If you're in the playoffs, you're in the playoff points. If you're a non-playoff driver, you're still racing your regular season, and whoever finishes 17th, they get $1 million bonus because they were the best of the rest. I don't know. It just separate it. It bugs me where you have the non-playoff drivers are technically taking points from the playoff drivers, and they're 48 to 50 points behind and they can't make it up. Make it closer. If you want to make it exciting, make it closer. So give the playoff drivers their own playoff point system. Moving into number 5, the elimination rounds. I'm not a fan. Never been a fan. It's too much. There's too many cuts. Just way too many cuts. You went from 36 races down to, now it's 26 for your regular season. And then you have 3 races for a mini season. And then another 3 races. And another 3 races. And they could be completely random. You could have one round is super speedway, road course, short track. Oh, well, my team's good on intermediates. Well, that's your next round, but you didn't make it. There's too much random. There's too much, well, as we saw, race manipulation. It's too gimmicky. And just a simple remove the cutoff races. You have your 2 cutoffs. You have your regular season cutoff and your finale. You're cutting off everyone else. And then you show off who your champion is. Just the elimination races, I don't think they draw in more viewers. So just get rid of them. If you want have your playoffs, make your playoffs one chunk, not 3 big chunks in one little slice for your finale. One of the other issues, and I think a lot of people are going to look at this one most recently with what just happened for this season, is the playoffs provide mediocre champions and a mediocre Final Four. And I'm guilty of it. I honestly forget who is your past champion. There's a few times this year I forgot Ryan Blaney was a champion. You forget. It's like, oh yeah, he didn't even win that race. Ross Chastain won that race. But they don't stand out. Like Chase Elliott doesn't feel like a champion. Even to an extent, Kyle Larson doesn't really feel like a champion. The one that feels the most, and I guess because it happens so frequently and people really talk about it, is Joey Logano. And even then, it's like, I guess. Even Jimmy Johnson stood out a little more because they manipulated the system. Well, I guess not manipulate, but they worked the system to the best of their benefit. Simple fix to this mediocre champions in your final fours is just stop your winning in so you don't fill up these 4 or 5 spots in your playoff bracket with one offs. You don't have your Harrison Burtons, your Michael McDowells, your Ricky Stenhouses, and no offense to them. They went out and won those races. But when they win a race and you've taken out someone who's worked really hard to be in the top 16 in points, you're taking away that best versus best. So with the mediocre champions and this gimmick that you win it in, it gets rid of the best versus best. So with all of the other issues I've listed so far, the best fix is just the 16 best teams are in the playoffs. So you have your best teams trying to go and do the best they can. This one's more of just an annoyance of just NASCAR as a whole. But number 7 is NASCAR versus stick and ball. Stop trying to be a stick and ball sport. They're always trying to praise the Game 7 moment. They're trying to make it where they want to fabricate these exciting moments. But the fans aren't that dumb. We know when they're fabricated. When we see an actual genuine moment that is amazing, we appreciate it. When it's a fabricated 5 overtimes and oh, we threw a phantom yellow to bunch up the field so we can have a big wreck. No, we don't need that. We don't need these elimination races so you break down your bracket from 16 to 12 to 8. Let it play out the way it's supposed to play out. Sometimes when you go to a playoffs in any sport, there will be a 4-game sweep. It happens. Some teams are just better than others. And other seasons, you'll go to a Game 7. You'll have those moments. But don't force it to happen. It's not like you're going to watch the best of, like, the Stanley Cup final. You're into Game 2. And, oh, if they win, the home team wins, then it's up 3-0. But if the away team wins, we're going to make it Game 7 because we want to make it exciting. No, it doesn't work that way. So, like, NASCAR needs to stop thinking about being the next Super Bowl, the next World Series, the next Stanley Cup. Just no, let NASCAR and the races play out naturally. And you might have your best of 7 moment as a Game 7 or as a 4-game sweep, but a 4-game sweep might still be memorable compared to a forced, fabricated Game 7. So just the simple fix for that is just focus on being a motorsport. You're not a stick and ball sport. So just go back to trying to focus on being a motorsport. And hopefully just letting stuff play naturally will be more exciting than the forced clickbait excitement that you try to get. And I guess that kind of leads into number 8 because, who's fabricating these? Well, it could be NASCAR, but it could also be the TV media. And they're forced on storylines. We always got to have storylines. We got to make it exciting. We just got to keep talking. We got to talk about racing, and we got to talk about what's going on behind closed doors and what they're doing in the off season. Just let the race play out. Just let these drivers and teams go onto the track, do their race, and if that driver and team goes out and wins, that's a storyline. But don't force you've got to do this, they've got to do that. They try to make every little thing way bigger than it needs to be. And that's including the playoffs. All they do is talk about playoff drivers and every little hiccup that happens. And they try to make it sound like, oh, this driver had a bad day today. And it's like you look back and go, well, no, they had a slow pit stop. But they recovered. And they put it into graphics and going, they've had a bad day. They had a miscue. They're not doing great. It's like, well, no, at the end of the day, they finished third. How is that bad? Like, just stop trying to force storylines. And it's not just the media, I guess. My fix for this is just kind of as NASCAR and the TV. Just, uh, not that one. Definitely not that one. It's kind of a mixture of the two. So actually, I guess I can put this up here as well. So gimmicks over your natural product, your storylines. Just let it play out naturally. There we go. Tried to put them together. I'm not going back. This is one take. We're doing it like just as is. So to put those two together, 8 and 9, they kind of got the same fix. Just let it play out naturally. Just stop trying to force phantom yellows, trying to stop forcing things that don't need to happen. And I guess I could also put in here, I didn't put it on my list, but get rid of half the rules you've got. There's too many, way too many rules, even for the average fan. Even for a hardcore fan, you're looking at it and going, this is a rule this week, but this is not a rule the next week. DVP, I'm looking at you. Get rid of DVP. Like, allow these teams to fix the cars. Just tell them what they cannot bring to the track. That'll save you money. And these guys hopefully are smart enough to not go out and just fix the car to go and retaliate. That's for another time. Just let the stuff play out naturally. Just please. And this whole video so far, we're up to 16 minutes. And the last one on my list is essentially what they're probably not going to do is they're going to do this. They're not going to listen to fans, but the fix is they're not going to listen to them. If they do, I'd be surprised. But I'm tired of NASCAR trying to just brush all their fans off and saying everything's great and wonderful when ultimately the fans are the ones buying the tickets. The fans are the ones that are putting their butts in the seats. They're camping out in the infield for a weekend. If you don't give them what they're wanting, they're going to leave. They don't want playoffs. They don't want mediocre champions. They don't want things. They just want racing. They want horsepower. They want these cars to actually be able to pass and have good racing, and we're just not getting that. And in turn, by not having good racing, your product that you're putting out there, your quote-unquote playoffs, they're not going to be good because you can't pass, you can't race, you can't bump and run, and you might, if you do, you might break a toe link, and oh, that's going to wreck the car and ruin that guy's race. But just, can we please go back to having these cars drivable, have some power behind them, let them pass, let them slide around, let them bump into each other. You fixed the 1.5 miles. Yeah, I get that. But in turn, you've ruined every other type of racing. And then you're going to try to sprinkle a playoff format on top of it that doesn't reward hard racing and the best team and the best driver to go out and be the best, and we can remember them. So overall, really, I'm going to have to pull out my little whiteboard now to cover all those. So you see those, you like them, great. If you don't, please let me know. But for myself, on the whiteboard here, how would I fix the playoffs? Well, went over a couple of them, but remove the win and in format. Award more points and more playoff points for winning. Maybe even make it the top 10 they get playoff points. Like, award more playoff points for the stages. Instead of just 1 for the stage winner, give them 3, and second place gets 2 and third place gets 1. Make it so playoff points are what you want. If they want playoffs, give them playoff points. Let them accumulate as many as they can. Let as many teams get as many as they can. That way, when we get to your top 10 or your top 12, hopefully not 13, or your top 16 drivers in points, however many playoff points they have, they'll reset at, I just put 1,000 up there. It could be any number. Reset their points to 1,000, plus however many playoff points they've accumulated up to race 26. And then have your last 10 races, not 1, not 3 and 3 and 3, just the old style of chase. Your last 10 races for those 16 drivers, or 10 or 12. The playoff drivers in their own point system that's not affected by non-playoff drivers. So it makes those playoff points worth it. Instead of having to go through 15 cars to get 15 positions, you should have got playoff points because you need to start passing playoff cars, the 15 best drivers against you. And again, without the win and in or win and move on, just more points awarded to playoff drivers who win during the playoffs. If you go out and win as a playoff driver during the last 10 races, award more points than you would normally award to a non-playoff driver who wins. That way, there's more incentive on winning. Something that NASCAR wants to push is the incentive of winning. And in turn, a little pet peeve of mine is having stage racing in the finale. They don't award points during the stage races in the finale. With this system, even the stage race, that could be a make or break for your season. You might need to win a stage to still be eligible for a championship when it gets down to the end of the race. So those breaks could mean more for these drivers, depending on how close it is. And really, the breakdown of this whole thing is just this version would have the best versus the best. A 10-race showdown in a closer playoff battle. Some years may have a runaway driver and team win before the finale. Kind of like a 4-game sweep in the Stanley Cup. And some years could have more than 4 drivers in the finale. You could have 5, you could have 7, depending on how close the points are. There could be super parity, and anyone has a chance to win. And that would be more like a Game 7 finale. It might come right down to the wire, the last corner, the last lap. They might be bumping and banging, but everyone was super close, and that team earned it. So I know it's not perfect. It's just kind of been a bit of a rant. Again, I don't think NASCAR will ever see this and go, you know what, we need to change. But hey, if it gets somewhere and someone likes even 10% of anything that has been spewed out and put on screen, change is needed. So I'd hope that there'd be some change. And maybe this will spark some ideas for them. You might have better ideas. You probably have better ideas. I'd like to hear them or see them or give me a reference to something or a link to something to go and see it or read it. But ultimately, all of what I've just gone over and said is things that NASCAR needs to change. Otherwise, they're going to lose more fans over the years because they're going to try to add more gimmicks. Maybe they'll add passengers to the cars. Maybe they'll drive backwards for a race. Maybe they'll start putting jumps on the track just to try to draw in the younger crowd. Who knows? But just the playoff format, it's been a black eye for far too long, and we know the full season won't come back. So here's some changes. Hopefully you like them. If you like this video, I'll try to do more. It won't be as primitive as how it looked tonight. I was just kind of rushing through and getting it. But if you like it, I appreciate it. If you don't, that's okay too. However you feel, have a good one.